Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Dwayne, host of the Is It Me podcast. Remember to check out the podcast on Spotify and other formats, and subscribe to the YouTube channel at Is It Me, ISITMEE. So make sure you hit that like and subscribe. I wanted to do a video about. I seen that another, I'm not gonna say local rapper, but I seen another news article about a rapper getting shot and killed. So I want to say this happened yesterday, so that would have been February 28th. So I just Googled rapper shot, and then I looked at the images. And when I look at the images, I want to say 90% of the rappers I knew of their music, because at first I was thinking, I'm like, all right, maybe the fact that the internet has created, an avenue that to the point where anybody could be a rapper. Maybe it's just so many rappers are. That's why we have so many rappers getting shot. Is because it's easier to become a rapper. Post I want to say 2008 or 2009 or something like that. With the internet era. Post Soldier Boy. Soldier Boy, I believe, was like one of the first. Soldier Boy and Afro Man were one of the first, like, I want to say, rap artists that blew up on the internet first versus like you seeing them on TV and stuff like that. No, because usually when you want to become a rapper or any type of musician, you got to work at your craft and you have to grind. It's some people pop before others, but for the most part, when you saw a rapper blow up, especially like in the late '90s, early 2000s, these rappers were already in their like late 20s, early 30s sometimes. Because if you think about it, Jay Z had been rapping for a long time before Hard Knock Life came out. And also, he had major success before Hard Knock Life. That was when the masses, became to, took notice of him. That's when I first, started to hear of him. And like same thing with 50 Cent. 50 Cent had been rapping for a long time before he blew up. Another good example is Eminem. Eminem had been rapping since like late '80s, early '90s. So now you got dudes blowing up, as teenagers, quick online. They getting all this money, and I'm not gonna say they didn't have to work to get the money. I'm gonna say they didn't have to work as hard as a Public Enemy or even like a Nelly, like artists that were grinding for years and years, and then they blew up. But I want to kick it back to the discussion of like why we have such a pending flux of rappers just getting smoked. It seems like, why are so many rappers getting? Is it the fact that, all right, maybe they living reckless? Are they not hiring enough security to be around them? Or is it the music and the energy that they're putting out in the universe? Now, for me personally, it's it's 65% the music and the vibe that they put out in the universe. Because I noticed one thing about all the rappers that were getting shot and getting killed. It seems to be a trend of the category of gangster rap, or you can't even call this gangster rap. I would call this new stuff gang rap, because everybody wants to be in a gang now. You know, and I know a lot of people grew up like that. I even grew up like that. But if I was gonna make music, being a gang member shouldn't define you. Artistically or even in real life. When you go to you get a job, leave the gang stuff at home. I was always taught to put on like different types of faces or whatnot. I know guys personally that were attempting to be artists, rappers and stuff like that. They had mild success in the city. They were real life game bangers, into it, shootouts, the whole nine, jail. But in their music, they put a little bit into that, but that wasn't the primary focus of their music. They also made fun music. They wasn't talking about how many people they how many different ways they smoke somebody, or they wasn't talking about people directly in their music, like, oh, skip this side of town, or skip, fuck such and such. When we see him, we gonna smoke them, or we smoking on this person or that person. They wasn't doing all that, and they was able to get love from everybody in the city. They still can do shows to this day, even though being rappers aren't primarily what they do now. They still put out mixtapes every now and then, up for sale. And, they got a nice following, like local. This is like a just like a local, like, not even rap crew, but like a rap label that I grew up around. They make, you know I want to say, at least 100 some odd grand every 2 years, or something like that, off these tapes, because everybody in the city is supporting them, because they didn't come out dissing everybody. Now, if they'd came out dissing everybody, these guys are older at this point. They're a little bit older. They're about 6, 7 years older than me. So they got whole families now, and rap is just like a side thing that they do. But if I do believe, had the internet been as prominent as it was, they would have made it professionally, or they would have made it, like, at least regionally. But they was able to do shows in all the smaller cities that were surrounding us, and some of the bigger ones. They were able to go all of these places because you know they made, you can call it gangster rap, but they wasn't talking about people. They wasn't claiming gangs in their raps. When you claim a gang, it automatically puts people against you in your music. Automatically, that's what it does. Excuse me. So you sitting up here, you limiting your fan base by doing this. So there's no need. It's like, I'm gonna go back to an artist that was, like, real popular when I was in middle school, in high school. Nelly was one of the top recording rap artists. A lot of people will come out and be like, "Oh, that wasn't real rap," or whatever. Just because you talk a little different, don't mean real rap. Just because you can't understand what somebody's talking about, that doesn't make it real rap. I think we passed that point. But Nelly was a Crip from St. Louis. I'm not with people claiming gangs that originated in the West Coast. I don't like when I see guys, especially guys from New York, because New York used to, everybody wanted to be like, New York. Everybody wanted to wear the Timbs and act like the rappers. People used to imitate New York. Now I feel like New York is imitating everybody else. I can't. I don't. I'm not a fan of that. But back to Nelly. I never knew this growing up, because you know what? Nelly wasn't mentioning being a Crip in his songs and stuff like that. And if he was, he probably wouldn't have got the record deal that he ended up getting. You know, and he probably wouldn't have the reach that he has. So I know it's easy to look back and say, well, that's Nelly. This is what people doing now. People putting gangs, they mixing gangs with their gangster lyrics. Like, you can't do that. And then the first thing they do in interviews, I noticed too, is the trend that a lot of them, especially like the older gangster rappers or older gang rappers, they'll be like, "Well, what makes you different from the other rappers?" They'll be like, "Well, I'm real. The other dudes, they just faking, they fraud and blah blah blah." dude, this is a costume you're supposed to be putting on. You're supposed to be putting on a show for the people. It's your profession. Like don't like throw the word real out of it. Everybody's real. Everybody, anybody can get touched. Just because you think somebody is, weaker or a punk or something like that, that same punk can come smoke you. Respect everybody 1,000 times over. That's how I feel at least. So yeah, you gotta I understand people grow up grow up with gangs because I even myself growing up when I was younger, my mom took us from one side of the town to another side of the town. And black women are realizing this. When you got boys, you can't just take them to, especially like when you're in a town where it's a lot of gangs and stuff like that. You can't just take them anywhere. So growing up, because I didn't want to switch gangs and mainly because I didn't want to be bullied. Because I wasn't gonna let, people, bully me. I had to fight a lot more so than normal, I would say, because basically the people in the neighborhood are making you earn their respect, so they like, all right, we know you come from this side of town. You didn't grow up all the way around us. I moved over to another side of town. I probably want to say I was like 10 years old or something like that. So by that time, everybody's already established of what gang they claim and all this, that, and the third. So so I had to learn I had to learn how to crack heads real young, real quick. The other side of town, I get into a scuffle every now and then, but especially when you're younger, it's just like little, testing your strength as a kid. But when I moved to the other side of town, it was like hate fighting, like, oh, I hate you, like I'm fit to really try to hurt you, so, like real, I would say real fights. So when I would go to school, it would be all right because I would still have friends that was from the other side of town that I would hang with, or new friends that I would meet. But the main people that I would hang around, we just did not get along for years and years, and this went on for like 4 years. After about after about 4 years, like they became my friends too on this side of town. Because they seen at this point I'm not gonna back down. I'm not gonna let y'all bully me, and so the majority of them just decided to become cool with me. And I want to say about three of them we became really, three or two of them we became really close friends. And the other 20 some odd people like around my immediate neighborhood, we became like casual friends, like cordial people. It wasn't all like it was just hey, if we go play basketball, or hey, if we go to a party, every once in a while, or hey, let's go skating. But back to the rappers getting shot. I believe that you putting out this negative energy into the universe. You're excluding a bunch of people to go against you by claiming gangs in your raps, and in interviews. If look at the Pee Wee Longway interview with Vlad TV. Vlad asked him about being in a gang and all this stuff, and he curved Vlad. That's what you need to do when somebody interviewing you. They asking you, "Are you going to gang?" And not even just for beef reasons, for legal reasons. You don't want to catch a case and then the prosecutors saying, "Hey, yeah, this person's been in a gang since he was this year, since he was 12 years old. He's a menace to society. We need to give him 20 years right now, ASAP." You don't want that to happen. Yeah, you don't want that to happen. So, and you're basically cursing yourself. No matter how real you think you are, no matter how tough you think you are, and no matter how much money these some of these dudes is millionaires getting smoked, dying. I I just can't get it. You know, they not in the hood all the time when they getting killed, but they are like flaunting a little bit too much. Like you should never want nobody to know where you stay at. You should never want nobody to know where your mother stays at. Just like with the Honeycomb Brazy rapper that he ended up getting his. I'm not gonna say he was he had. I'm not gonna say he was mainly responsible for his grandparents getting killed, but he does owe. It's a little bit on him that it happened. You know, you can't control what your enemies do and whatnot. But I was thinking like number one, he must have did something. He must have did something really really fucked up to the point where they're like, hey, we finna go kill this dude. Grandparents. Either that or the people that he was beefing with just really really hated him or whatnot. But that's the first thing you need to do. I know a lot of people, grandparents, you know, don't want to, after you get a certain age, they not finna move. They finna stay right where they at. They probably been in the same place. They probably lived in that house 20, 30 plus years. And it's all they know. I know some older people, they just don't want to move. But if he knew that the beef was like that, he should have pressed the issue and at least waited until like the heat died down. Have him move out the house, for 2 years or something like that until you've settled the beef or things have calmed down. Yeah, but I 100% and even with just regular violence in the hood, gang violence or a lot. We say that the representative in Illinois said he wants to get Grand Theft Auto banned because it's contributing to carjackings and violence in Illinois. I'm gonna say no on video games. If you do have somebody that acts out some type of violence or something in video games, it's very few and far between. But I can't say the same thing for music because if music can put you in the mood to make love, have sex or cry, if music can give you all these different emotions, why can't music put you in the mood to shoot, hate, kill, or influence you to, join a gang or be a part of a gang? Because look at Lil Wayne. Look at the reach Lil Wayne had. You didn't see people, even the people that were from Los Angeles or California or Las Vegas, even the people that were from the West Coast, you didn't hear them taking shots at other gangs on records or wearing a bunch of like, gang colors. Lil Wayne took being a blood and turned it into a fad or whatever they call it. He made it cool. So that's the real reason why you have a lot more, bloods in the South and a lot more bloods in New York and places like that. Now you got bloods everywhere, mainly due to Lil Wayne and somewhat Jim Jones, but I don't think Jim Jones had that type of reach. I saw Lil Wayne as being the most influential rapper of my teenage years and early 20s years. He grew those dreads out, and then next thing you know, everybody started growing dreads. We used to think the dreads was dusty and ugly looking. You know, Not thinking about the historical significance or cultural significance of dreadlocks, but it just wasn't it. But as soon as he grows these dreads out, everybody else wants to grow them out. As soon as he wants to start claiming blood, everybody wants to start claiming blood, and that's the type of reach that music has because you want to be You want to be like your heroes growing up. And if your heroes just happen to be a musician, think about all the people that your, grandparents wanted to be like growing up, or great grandparents. They wanted to be like, smooth, like one of the members of the Temptations or the Isley Brothers or something like that. In the '80s, everybody wanted to, imitate Prince or whatnot, or Michael Jackson. In the late '80s, everybody wanted to dress like LL Cool J. So if a music artist can have this type of reach to people, why don't y'all think that a music artist's bad behaviors can't be influencing, especially younger people too? But I've seen it influence older people. I've seen guys in their 30s when the Atlanta Snap music was coming out, they wanted to talk like they was from Atlanta. They wanted to dress like they was from Atlanta. They wanted to dance like they was from Atlanta. It was, it was crazy. And I'm big on being yourself. I'm also big in accepting other people's cultures and enjoying it. Like I love the martial arts culture. That the a lot of the Asian cultures have. The discipline. Not just the fighting in it, but I don't immerse myself in someone else's culture to the point where I'm going to be looking like them and dressing like them. And I feel like a lot of these guys, if they were to just, you can't even say they not being themselves. I think that they're being too much of themselves, because you're supposed to try to leave the bad part of you behind in life as you get older, or even as you get successful. You're supposed to cut certain people off. You're supposed to stop hanging in certain places. I know everybody got an uncle or aunt who, grew up and probably made a little bit of money. They just didn't want to come back to the, to the hood. And it's not that they acting funny. It's just that that's not a place where they want to spend, a lot of their time at. You'll probably see them at a funeral, or if they come back for their class reunion or something like that. But other than that, they not coming back every weekend to hang with the family like everybody else is at the barbecues and all that other stuff. It's because they grew out of it, and they don't, not that they don't want to associate with everybody. They just don't want to be around that type of environment. Which is understandable, because I can see these guys, at minimum, they if they're not millionaires, they at least, make a few grand, a few hundred grand a year. And even when you got that type of money, you can't help all of your family members. You can't move everybody out. But as far as advice would go, I would say, if you're an up and coming rapper, or artist or musician, if you're anybody that's from the hood that has any type of success, I would say I would say stay private. I would say stay humble, not let everyone know your business, and don't befriend everybody, and respect everybody 1,000%. And if you had an enemy, ignore them. Ignore them 100%. Don't get no interviews talking about them. Don't send. Don't don't send shots at no record about nobody. Because at the end of the day, it's not worth your life at all. Because you can't spend that money when you're dead. So what's the purpose of accumulating everything that you want in life and then getting locked up, getting killed? But this has been another episode of the Is It Me podcast. Y'all stay tuned. I got some more stuff coming. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube if you're watching this on YouTube. Peace.